Yellow on my team. Testing, testing. Okay. I left my mic down on my desk. Okay. Now let's continue with the exercise on the elasticity of demand and the relationship with total expenditure, right? Which is page 8 of your notes. Okay. Later on. Now, let's start with this question. Now, again, I have mentioned in our class, don't say, oh, this is a curve. Then automatically ED equals to 1, answer B, right? Don't do this, okay? In exam, graphs do not need to be drawn to scale, okay? 可以唔跟 scale 㗎. So do not treat it must be ED equals to 1. You must check it, okay? How do we check? 今次呢個簡單啦. Let's just check TE. Okay, do you see 3 times 40, 120, 2 times 60, 120, 1 times 120, 120. It's always the same, no matter how price changes. Now, therefore, we know this is unitarily elastic demand. Okay, 記住啊，唔使跟 scale 㗎，唔好一見到彎線，哦，曲線哦，跟住就依啲係一，no no 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 no，don't do that。OK，好嘛，好 next one。If there is a poor harvest of rice in Thailand, 我哋望望啦，好嘛？Poor harvest, what does that mean? It means that supply of Thai rice would drop. Therefore, price increases, Q decreases. OK，得唔得？嗱，呢個緊要啦，係嘛？Thai rice in Hong Kong would increase because of a price rise. 但其實知唔知啊？Now we know P increase, Q decreases. Do you know how overall will change? Actually, we do not know. TE unknown 係嘛？其實我哋唔知㗎。So may increase or decrease depending on the elasticity of demand for Thai rice. Exactly. OK，我哋完全唔知啊。Without further information, we do not know whether this is inelastic or elastic. OK，好嘛？好，跟下一個啦。Suppose MTR fares on short distance, 我哋叫 X 啊，係咪啊 and cross harbour journey are raised by this percent and this percent. Okay, if the QD fall by something, 我哋望望啦，係咪啊？It says X P changed by 6.9%, Q changed by 8%, while for Y P changed by 16 here 16 13.3%咪16啊13嚟嘅係嘛 while quantity changed by 3.5%. Here let's see what can we conclude about X 係咩嚟㗎 X ED larger than 1我哋知道啦 elastic. Why? Because Q is changing by a larger percentage. While for Y, price is changing by a larger percentage. Or I should say, quantity is changing by a smaller percentage. Therefore, ED is smaller than 1, or inelastic. So we can tell the demand of X is more elastic than the demand of Y. Exactly the answer we want. 冇錯啦，就係呢個啦。好嘛？So this one, just use our logic, okay? 佢話啦，then in winter tend to buy more hydrating facial cream. 好啦，嗱，小心啲啊。Tend to buy more cream. 冬天會買多啲，呢個發生緊咩事啊？This is an increase in demand. Therefore, 我哋兩條片前講過啦，係咪啊？ We talk about that in previous 2 videos, right? Here, if this is a change in demand, can we conclude anything about ED? No. Therefore, these 2 answers must be wrong. 唔使問啦 A 同 B 一定錯啦，好嘛？ Now it says price by 20%, while quantity from this to this, 係嘛 2,000 to 2,800, which is 40%. What is this? This is definitely elastic. 我哋頭先講咗唔係 demand 啦 supply. Therefore, answer will be C, elastic supply. OK，得唔得？Now, what about next page？下版啦。Now, you see, right? If you know the logic, it's actually quite easy to do this kind of question. Why Hong Kong the results in elasticity of demand are so bad, right? Because they don't understand the logic. OK，好嘛，所以你一定要明個 logic 啊！你唔明個 logic 咧，其實啲課咧你好辛苦㗎，好嘛？OK，now next question, practice paper. Political unrest for these countries exporting crude oil. OK，好啦，即係發生咩事啊？好啦 political unrest for crude oil. So what happens to crude oil? Supply of crude oil would decrease. OK，所以啦，肯定 C 同 D 唔使問啦，係嘛？Supply we do not know anything. Here it says a change in price, 係嘛？30% change in price. While 15% change in QT, you see that quantity is is changing by a smaller percentage than price. We call this inelastic, and we already know since supply decrease, we do not know anything about elasticity of supply. OK，好嘛？好，下一條啦。Michelle, a jewelry lover, and says, I will spend all my monthly salary, no matter how price change. 即係咩意思啊？TE equals to P times Q. She said, no matter how price increases or decreases, the monthly salary will spend all on a monthly salary. Of course, we are not just talking about price, but talk about a sum of money. Total expenditure remains unchanged. 好啦，既然 unchanged 嘅 what do we call this? Unitarily elastic demand. Because here, to balance this out, we need this one to change by the exact same percentage. OK，好嘛？好啦，next one. Only to continuous bad weather, okay, of local vegetables. 我哋諗諗啦，bad weather, how will it affect the market situation of local vegetables? We know that supply of local vegetables would decrease. Therefore, yes, no idea. 我哋唔知 yes 啊，好嘛？ Now, which of the following statement are correct? The quantity demanded falls. 呢個啱唔啱啊？無奈知咯，係嘛？ Price increases. 好啦 what happens? By law of demand, then QD drops. Exactly. 啱㗎呢個。Total expenditure. Okay, total expenditure. Do we know? Do we know anything about total expenditure? Actually, yes. 諗諗啦。Here, TE equals to P times Q. 已經講明啦，係嘛？The price increased by 13%, while QT dropped by 40%. 咩叫 40% 同13啊？Here, dropping more 啊。So we cancel them out. We see that there is a net fall. Therefore, no, actually it should fall. 係嘛？Number 2 is not correct. Okay, then I think answer will be 1 and 3. 睇埋3同4係嘛？Demand for imported vegetable rice. Why? Because imported substitute. Okay, therefore it will rise. And total expenditure may rise or fall depending on the elasticity of demand. 點解呢個唔啱啊？ Because D increases. What does that mean? It means that both price and quantity will increase. So what happens? TE must increase. It does not need to depend on elasticity of demand because this is an increase in demand. Both price and quantity would increase. No need to depend on anything. Okay, 得唔得？ So this is how we do it. Answer B. 好啦，然之後啦 we're given this diagram. Okay, total expenditure. How will it change? Are you given any number? No, we have no idea. It may rise or fall depending on the price elasticity of demand. 啊，你咁都出條題目，係啊，係咁戇居噶啦，係咁啦。OK，好嘛？嗱，what about next one? You are given this table. 記住咯，we have price, we have total expenditure. It's safer to also calculate the quantity. 5, 5, 5, 5. We see that quantity doesn't change at all 係咪？你見啊 Q 唔變喎。So what is the elasticity of demand? If Q cannot change, we know it is what we call perfectly inelastic demand, which is equal to 0. Okay, 好嘛？easy job, right? What about next one? A decrease in the cost of producing good eggs. 諗啦 decrease in cost. It means supply increases. Therefore, we know nothing about yes 我哋唔知道啦，係嘛 ？Here, price by 5%, quantity by 10%. We can conclude that this is elastic demand. 呢條好似做過啦喎。Yes, answer durable goods. 原來做過啦呢條，唔記得咗添。好嘛，嗱，what about next one? Mandy and Shelly, OK？Mandy 講咩啊？I love coffee very much. No matter how price change, same amounts of coffee every week. 即係咩意思啊？This one quantity always remains unchanged. 好啦，既然 Q 變唔到啦，we call this ED exactly zero, perfectly inelastic. 跟住啦 Shirley says, okay, I will spend the same amount of money here. TE remains unchanged. 記唔記得啊？When will TE remains unchanged no matter how price change? Unitarily elastic. Answer B. Okay, 我哋知道啦 this one. ED equals to 1. Okay, 得唔得？ Now, I think there are several more questions, and then we are done with this video. OK， 好啦，我哋望望啦。Newspaper enter into price war。好啦，嗱呢條啦，上堂講過啦。Most likely we will break down into A1 and A2， 係咪？而家呢個年代應該唔會兩條一齊出㗎啦，係咪？We break down into A1 and A2。OK，佢話啦，General Manager says that price cut will reduce our newspaper total sales revenue, while sales manager says even if we do not cut our price, the total sales revenue will still decrease when others cut. 好啦 we need to explain them with separate diagrams. OK， 好吧？好啦，嗱 let's deal with the GM first. GM 講咩啊？GM says when price decreases, our total expenditure or total revenue will drop. Okay, when will this happen? We need to refer back to our formula. TE equals to P times Q. We know that here, price drop leading to total expenditure drop. When will this happen? To balance this equation, we know that quantity only changed by a smaller percentage. What do we call this? We call this inelastic demand. 所以啦，原來個 the situation when it is inelastic demand, then we know that the percentage decrease in price would be smaller. Actually, I think it's larger, right? Will be larger than the percentage increase in quantity. Therefore, total revenue will drop. 好啦， how to draw the graph? Since it is inelastic demand, no funny business, right? Inelastic, midpoint here. Inelastic, lower portion. Therefore, if we drop the price here, P1 drops to P2. 嗱，詳細自己寫啦，我唔講啦，上堂寫咗啦，好嘛 ？OK, here Q1, Q2 係買多咗啊，但係最後收嘅錢少咗嘛？點解 ？Because here drop in price, decrease in total revenue, increase in quantity, increase in total revenue. Definitely, we see that the drop is larger. TE decreases. Okay, TE decreases. Okay, so this would explain the general manager's point. Now, what about sales manager? Sales manager says that even if a price remains unchanged, when other cut theirs, 你見到 other 即刻諗起咩啊 ？Yes, I think most of you already know the answer. We know that they are substitutes. Different newspapers are substitutes. So when other price drop, then their quantity demanded would increase. What happens? The demand for our newspaper would drop. Therefore, P remains unchanged. Although P remains unchanged, Q would drop. Therefore, total revenue would drop. 你話 Sir 點解 P remains unchanged 嘅？ Given by the question, right? Normally, when demand drops, we know that price should drop, right? But because the question has given price remains unchanged, okay? 好啦 how do we draw the diagram? Okay, my wife just come back. I need to finish this video as soon as possible because it's time for cooking. 而家6點半啦，係時候煮飯啦。Okay, let me try to speed up a little bit. Okay, 好嘛？Now this time, since we are talking about a decrease in demand, so we do not need to be too concerned with the slope. Okay, here, let's call this D1. And the price is always here, P1. Since the price remains unchanged. Okay, 好嘛？ This one Q1. Now, it drops to D2. 跌咗嘛 ？Q2 好啦 this whole area we are selling less newspaper. It means that our total revenue will drop. This whole red box would be the drop in total revenue. Now, I know, right? Some of you are asking, how come we don't need to deal with the supply curve? So boys, remember, when it comes to questions related to elasticity of demand, if you're not asked to deal with the supply, no need to deal with the supply. For example, 你見到要呢條啦 if you need to draw a supply curve, you see the problem, right? 係咪啊 we only can use a horizontal supply, but there is no way to explain why there is a horizontal supply. So we just ignore the supply curve, completely ignore the supply curve. That will be good enough. Okay, 得唔得？ Now, let's continue with the last few questions 好嘛？我哋做埋臨尾幾條啦，好嘛？嗱 here, practice paper. Earthquake in Japan greatly damaged the production facilities like SD card. OK， 嗱我哋要知道啦，我哋要解到啦。When those facilities are destroyed, then the supply of memory product would drop, meaning price would increase, quantity transacted would decrease. Okay, as a result, those price increases. With the aided diagram, explain under what situation TE would fall. 我哋諗諗啦 the logic. TE equals to P times Q. We already know P increases, Q decreases, right? 記住啦。When would TE drop? How do we balance this equation? We need this guy to move faster by a larger percentage, right? What do we call this? We call this elastic demand. Now, therefore, to answer, we say if demand is elastic, 嗱未完啊，唔好咁快完啊。The percentage increase in price is smaller than the percentage decrease in quantity. Therefore, total expenditure would drop. 嗱呢個好緊要啊 ！You must tell me percentage， 一定要係 percentage 啊！好嘛 ？Now how to draw the graph? Very easy, right? 係咪啊 ？Here. Since we are talking about normal elasticity, no funny business here. Okay, demand just like this. So this is a midpoint. Okay, now we are drawing this elastic demand, meaning the price increase happens in the upper region. Therefore, we draw the increase in price in the upper region. Okay, now you will see this part more expensive, spending more money. But this part, buying fewer SD card. So we are spending less money. Definitely. You see the minus is much larger than the plus. Therefore, total expenditure drops. Okay, 得唔得？係咁嘅咋 ？No, nothing special. Just like that, right? Now, the final two questions here. It says MTR increase fare by 5.4%. Okay, 好嘛？好啦 ，Under what condition passenger would total expenditure would increase？好啦，你試下啦。The logic again, TE equals to P times Q. Now we know price increases. When would TE increase? When quantity drop, but by a smaller percentage. This is what we call inelastic demand. Now, therefore, we say when demand is inelastic, then the percentage increase in price would be 咦，佢係升定跌啊？而家要升啊，係啦，will be larger than the percentage decrease in quantity. Therefore, TE would increase. The graph is also simple. Normal demand curve, no funny business. Midpoint right here. Since we're inelastic, so let's draw the increase. 唔好意思啊，唔夠位啊，我畫得細咗啊。Q1, Q2. You will see this box increase, this box decrease. Increase is larger than decrease. Therefore, total expenditure would increase. OK？ 咦？哎呀，頭先條畫漏咗一樣嘢喎 ，SD 卡，sorry 啊，啱啱畫太順手啦。Here, this question, since we have talked about supply, so for this particular question, we actually need to show the supply. 嗱，所以我畫漏咗啦，咁啊冇咗分啦，係咪 Here, I need to show people the supply has dropped. OK， 得唔得？我要畫翻 supply curve 呢條，唔記得咗添。I'm so sorry。OK， 好嘛？Now finally，誒窒機添。喂，hi，出嚟，出嚟啊！Now finally, let's look at this question here. Based on table 1, can we conclude that the increase in total revenue is a result of inelastic demand for local supply? 嗱，好啦，佢想講咩啊？Here you see fare increase，因為啲咩啊？ TE equals to P times Q. We see that TE increase, total revenue increases. Here also increase, which means to balance this equation, this one would drop, which means in elastic demand. They are asking whether we can conclude this. Of course, the answer is no. Why? Look at here. What happens? P increases, Q increases. 見唔見到個問題邊啊 ？This one decrease, this one increase. Therefore, the answer is actually no. As quantity and price increased, 兩個都升晒。In fact, this is an increase in demand for MTR. Okay, therefore, total revenue must increase. For the graph, just go something like this. This is our demand 1. This is our demand 2. 唔好意思啊，冇位啦，所以畫得爭少少啊，係嘛 ？Here, definitely P1, Q1, P2, Q2. According to the data, both increased, right? Now, therefore, this, now, X3 will understand. This Curtis shape, this Curtis polygon would be our increase in total revenue. OK， 好嘛？ Now, I know this video, I may be a little bit fast, right? But because we have already talked about all these in our lesson, okay? For the next final video, we're going to very quickly look at elasticity of supply, and then we'll finish the last few questions on elasticity of supply. Okay, I'll see you in the last final video. Okay, bye-bye.